Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I welcome you all to the fifth lecture for the course of Data and Computer Communication. My name is Engineer Jafar Ali and I am instructor for this course. So let's start with the recapitulation of the previous topics. In the last class, we have discussed about the TCP/IP model in detail, and before that, we have already discussed about the OSI reference model in lecture number 3. In the previous class, in lecture number 4 actually, we have discussed about TCP/IP model, that how this TCP/IP model is derived from this OSI reference model, and we learned about that how the 7 layers is now shifted and modified into 4 layers of TCP/IP model with a little bit of modifications, and later on we saw about some real life examples as well. So this is today's topic. Today, this class we will be learning about these topics. And in the previous class, actually, we have started this topic about that what is modulation, what is the need for modulation, and why do we need this modulation in the course of data and computer communication. And then we saw that what is digital modulation, and we saw that how there are several there are several parameters that you need to be set before starting the modulation. So the parameters was bit rate, baud rate, and carrier frequency. So you see that the bit rate is the number of bits transferred in 1 second. The number of bits that you actually transfer in 1 second is known as the bit rate. What is the baud rate? The baud rate is basically the number of signals, that is number of signals that you pass in 1 second. Let's say this is 1 second. So the number of signals that you pass is basically in 1 second is baud rate. And in this signal, how much bits you transmit, that is basically the bit rate. For example, if you transmit, you can say these are 2 bits that we have transferred in 1 second. So the baud rate is 1, but the bit rate is 2. So this is basically bit rate. And the carrier frequency is a frequency which is basically some high frequency. And why do we need this carrier frequency? Because we generate signals or signals with low frequency, and if we want to transmit it at further distance, we need to have some higher frequencies. So to transfer our lower frequency or baseband frequency into higher frequency, we need some kind of carrier frequency, and we superimpose our baseband signal, our low frequency signal, into this high frequency carrier signal, and that's how we are able to transmit our signal further. So we have discussed about these topics, and we also discussed about some types, that is we have classified the modulation techniques into 2 classes. One is binary and the second one is M-array. So we will be seeing these binary techniques in today's class, and inshallah this M-array techniques as well. And in the last of this lecture, I will tell you about some real life examples that you will be seeing in your real life about the digital modulation in these area. So we already discussed that what is modulation, motivation, digital modulation. You saw that what is bit rate and what is baud rate, and you saw that baud rate is always less than or equal to bit rate. Bit rate can be more, and baud rate is always less than the bit rate. And there is an example which we discussed in the previous class as well, and we talked about carrier frequency, that how you can transfer your low frequency into a high frequency signal by using of modulation, and for that you need carrier frequency, and this kind of modification is known as modulation or shift keying. So this is known as the modulating signal which you actually transmit, that is modulated signal. So there are 3 basic types of binary, that is binary ASK, binary FSK, and binary PSK. This ASK stands for amplitude shift keying, This FSK stands for frequency shift keying, and this PSK stands for phase. A for amplitude. A stands for amplitude of signal. You know that signal has three major properties. Any signal will be having three major properties. The first one is its amplitude. The second one will be its frequency, and the third one will be the phase. Any signal in your real life, in your practical life, you will be seeing these three properties of signal, these three parameters of signal. The signal will be having an amplitude, it will be having some specific frequency, and it will be having some specific phase. So by modifying this amplitude, frequency and phase, we can actually do the modulation, and that modulation will be termed as ASK, FSK and PSK respectively. So we will start with the binary ASK. Now the number shows that, the name shows actually that binary means 2. So you have to divide your signal into 2 amplitudes. And how do we do that? I will tell you in a little while. In amplitude shift keying, the strength of the carrier signal is varied to present the binary 1 or 0. So both the frequency and other factors, that is frequency and phase, remain constant while amplitude changes. You just have to vary the amplitude, not the frequency or the phase. So by varying amplitude only, you will be able to receive do this binary ASK. And with example, I will show you how. Let's say you want to transmit this data, that is 0, 1, 0, 1 and 0. So you see that in this diagram, it is shown that this signal that is transmitted, that you want to transmit, is actually 1 second long, and in this 1 second there are 5 signals. This 1, then this 2, then this 3, then this 4 and this 5. So the baud rate becomes 5. You are transmitting 5 signals in 1 second of duration. Similarly, you will see that how many bits you are carrying in that signal actually. So you see that in this signal there is 1 bit, and this signal there is 1 bit, this signal carry 1 bit, and this signal carry 1 bit, and this signal carry 1 bit. So the bit rate is also 5. So this was about the bit rate and baud rate. Now coming towards the modulation technique, I have discussed that we are going to change the amplitude with respect to the bit. So I have divided the amplitude into 2 categories. Let's say the first one is one means plus 5 volt, and 0 means plus 2 volts, let's say, or plus 1 volt. So I have basically divided the signal into 2 amplitudes, that is plus 5 and plus 1. If I want to transmit plus 1, I will just send if I want to transmit this 0, I will just send plus 1 voltage. Let's say this is voltage, the amplitude of voltage will be plus 1. So you see that I have transmitted the signal with the amplitude of 1. So at the receiving end, if the receiver receives 1, so it will automatically know that this plus 1 means 0. This decision has to be discussed on the both hand sides, at the receiving end as well as in the transmission end. The transmission and receiving has to be synchronized before actually the process of transmission or modulation occurs. Similarly, let's say the other bit is 1. So I have represented that plus 1 is denoted by this 1 is denoted by plus 5. So if I want to transmit 1, I will send a signal that will have the voltage of plus 5 actually. So you see that when the receiver will receive this plus 5 volt of signal, so it will automatically know that this means 1, because this thing will be also shared with the receiver as well. So by this thing, you seen that we do not change the frequency. The frequency is constant. The frequency over here is same as the frequency over here, and all the frequencies are same. This is same frequency all around the signal of 1 second. But The phase is also same. You see that the phase is also same. You see that all the signals are starting from the same phase. So you are not also changing the phase as well. So the only thing that you are changing is basically the amplitude. For 1 you are sending a higher amplitude, and for 0 you are sending the lower amplitude. You can also do the reverse. Let's say if you want to transmit 0 for a plus 5 volt, you can also do that, but for that you will also have to tell the receiver as well that 0 means plus 5 volts. So in that case this thing will be opposite. That means that this thing will become bigger, the amplitude of this signal will become bigger, and this amplitude will be become smaller. So this is known as binary ASK, where you change only amplitude, and frequency and phase will not be affected. This will remain same as it is all over the period. So now you see that this is another example, and this is a specific example. Let's say there is a huge disadvantage of this type of modulation, because for 0 you are also sending some voltage, and it means there is some energy that need to be transmitted. So it means that for transmission of 0 you are transmitting power. So to save this power as well, what mostly people do, they transmit 1 with a higher voltage, you see that, and they transmit 0, they transmit nothing for 0. So if the receiver receives nothing, it will automatically consider it 0. Similarly, if it receives a little bit of voltage or current, it will automatically consider it 1. So this type of modulation is basically termed as OAK, double OK actually, where you use on off keying. This is basically on off keying, where you on and off and on and off. So basically this is on off keying, on off keying. So this is a particular type of binary ASK. This is type of OOK is by further classified classification of ASK. So I have already told you that for 1 you have to transmit some energy, and that energy is calculated by the bit energy divided by the bit period multiplied by the parameters, that is the phase and the frequency of the signal with respect to the cos. So using this formula you can find the energy that will be required to transmit this one. So this will be the amplitude. Actually the amplitude of 1 will be this, and the amplitude of 0 I have considered 0. You can also consider it with some another variable as well, but mostly people prefer to transmit 0 so that they can save energy. So if I tell you that if I ask you actually what is the average energy per bit, so you can easily add these both and divide it by 2. So you know that the total energy will be twice of the bit energy. Total energy will be, this is total energy, and it will be divided by 2. So the bit energy will the total energy will be twice of the bit energy. So this is the equation for the total energy that will be required to transmit this signal. You have to twice the bit energy for all the bits you are transmitting. Now when the receiver receives the packet, it will be very easy for it to justify or to decide that this digit is either 0 or 1 as terms of energy. So the receiver will calculate this thing. If the receiver receives the data that is something over here, due to let's say some noise or some error, the packet or the bit is has lost some energy, and the bit energy is consumed, and it is some kind of here, somewhere here. So it will automatically corresponds it to S1, because it has placed S1 over here with this energy, and it has placed 0 with this energy S2. So it will automatically put a decision line. This is known as decision line or decision boundary. Decision line or decision boundary. So if the packet, if the bit fall is across this side, that is on the right half plane, so the receiver will automatically detect is as a 1. And similarly, if the packet falls somewhere over here, let's say over here, so it will automatically consider it as 0. So this is known as decision line. If you fall on this side, you will be your data will be considered as 1, and if you fall on this side, your data will be automatically considered as 0. So this is your basically division boundary technique that you use at the receiving end to decide whether this is 0 or 1. Now coming towards this implementation of this BASK, this is very much interesting topic, that how you can implement this actually. So let's say this is your data, a binary data that is coming from here. Let's say this is your data 0 0 1 1 0 1 0 0 0 1 0, and you want to transmit this data and you want to make a signal out of it. So it is very easy. So if the data, let's say this 0 is coming, this 0 is coming first, let's say. So if it is 0, it will automatically switch, the modulator will automatically turn the switch to the 0, and this 0 will be sent on this output. The output will be 0. You see that the output will be 0. Similarly, if you transmit 1 actually, so if there is 1, so automatically this modulator will turn this switch to the some kind of sinusoidal carrier frequency, and the amplitude of that frequency will be shifted into this amplitude, and a higher amplitude will be generated, as I have told you before. So this is now higher amplitude, so the higher amplitude will be transmitted for the 1. Similarly, again when the 0 comes, the switch will be coming over here, and for 1 it will go back to the higher carrier frequency, and the amplitude of that frequency will be merged or superimposed on this carrier amplitude of this baseband signal actually, and you will be getting your output like this. So this is very much interesting topic for implementation of BASK. Now what is the problem with ASK, binary ASK specifically? So you know that ASK is mostly used for analog signals, and for analog signals you see that there is a term noise that is very much there, and noise is very much affect the performance for the ASK actually, and it is due to some electromagnetic induction and some other waves that are created by the different energy or other sources due to heat and electronic sources or the machine sources or the noise. There are several reasons due to which noise is generated, and it affects the ASK very badly. So that is why we do not want our system to have that much of noise, because if you have much noise, your data will be corrupt, the chances of your data corruption will be higher. Let's say if you have a high noise, so the data, if you transmit this data, let's say, and there is a high noise, so there is a huge possibility that this data will be shifted towards this side. When the receiver will receive the data, it will be on this side due to a lot of noise. So the receiver will predict that this is 0, but you have sent 1. So the data will be corrupted, and you will have to retransmit the whole data again. And for that, you will again require some energy to transmit this signal. So this is very much not feasible for you to transmit the data in very noise, because you will have to pay a huge amount of energy. In terms of energy, you will have to pay a huge cost. You will be using much energy as compared to other techniques. So this is what I have discussed with you also, that what is OOK. OOK is basically on off keying, and for this you transmit 1 with a higher signal, with a higher amplitude, and for 0 you automatically turns off to save energy, you turns off the signal. So for 0 you are transmitting nothing, so you are saving this energy. Let's say if you don't want to save energy and you have a lot of energy resources, so you can also do this thing. You can transmit low voltage signal or low current signal as well, but this will also cost some energy. Let's say this is +1, so this will be not on off keying. This is not on off keying. Without this is on off keying. If you are not using this thing, you are not transmitting anything. Now this has become on off keying. So this is very much good thing. You transmit when you only need energy when you want to transmit one, and you do not want energy when you want to transmit a zero. So this is basically on of king, and I have already told you that the advantage is basically the reduction in the amount of energy that is required to transmit your information. Now coming towards the FSK, FSK is very much interesting as well. In FSK, instead of amplitude, you know that the signal has amplitude, a frequency, and a phase. So instead of the amplitude or the phase, you just shift or modify the frequency. You just modify the frequency. I will tell you with the example by now. Let's say this is an example. If you want to transmit 0, let's say, so you will send a low frequency signal. The carrier will be of a low frequency. Again there is 0, so low frequency. But when there comes 1, you basically increase the frequency rather than amplitude. You see that all these amplitude are same. Amplitude of all the signals are same. Amplitude and phase. This will be constant for FSK. For FSK, only frequency will be changing, but the other factors will be remain constant, like amplitude and phase. You know that this amplitude is same, and you know that this phase is also same. You see that all the signals are starting from the same phase. Here you can see that all the phases are same. So this is basically known as FSK. And coming towards its implementation, you just have in this case you will have at least 2 frequency, because it is binary. Binary means 2, so it means you will have to generate 2 different higher frequencies. If there is 0, so you transmit your data. Let's say this is low frequency, this is low frequency. Let's say f1 is greater frequency than f2. So if you want to transmit 0, if you want to transmit the 0, you shift the switch, the modulator shift the switch to the low frequency. So this is low frequency generated as an output. And if you want to transmit, again there is 0, so you have to transmit low frequency signal. And if you want to transmit this 1, so for that you need a higher frequency to differentiate that. So this modulator will turn the switch back to the higher frequency. So it will give it the higher frequency. The signal output will be of higher frequency. Similarly, when there comes again 0, there will be lower frequency and higher frequency. Again lower frequency, lower frequency, low frequency, and again higher frequency. So by just changing the FSK, the frequency, you are implementing this BFSK. And as you see that there are 2 frequency options, so that is why it is known as binary FSK. For future, let's say if you have 4, so that will become QFSK, quadrature frequency shifting. We will discuss that in M-array. Inshallah, M-array will be discussed after this implementation, after this binary portion. This is binary, this thing is binary, but if you increase the options for the output waves, you can actually achieve M-array. So this was about implementation of BFSK. And now the topic is very important, that how do you select these frequencies, the selection of these frequencies, that what will be the difference or the relationship between these frequencies. This topic is very much of importance, because nowadays 3G and 3G, basically WCDMA, this is known as W code division, wideband code division multiplexing. So you have to divide your data among codes. But if you comes to 4G, you know that in 4G you can actually transmit the internet, that is packet switching. We have also discussed packet switching and circuit switching in the previous classes, I think lecture 1 I guess, or lecture 2. So packet switching is that thing that you does not want to communicate your circuit switching data, that is connection oriented, but you want to do your operation on the packet switching level. That is, you switch the packet or you route the packet in every possible direction so that it reaches its destination more accurately, and it has multiple options as well. So what will be the relationship between these frequencies? This is the major question. So to justify this, the frequency should be selected on some rules. So the rules are basically known as orthogonality. The rule of orthogonality. The signals should be orthogonal to each other. And what do I mean by orthogonal? Two signals are orthogonal to each other if they are mutually independent. And what is this term? It means there is no similarity. You can see that if I correlate these things, these signals, this S1 and S2, the correlation should be zero. So there should be no similarities. The equation should be satisfied if you want to select two frequencies. So there should be no mutually independence of these, or you can say the projection of one frequency onto the other frequency. So that is the main reason, and that is the main purpose. You see that this is S1 where X is something but Y is 0. Similarly, this is S2 where Y is something and X is 0. So this is basically, these signals are known as orthogonal signals, which are not independent, mutually independent of each other, as well as their correlation becomes 0. There is no projection of S1 on S2 and there is no projection of S2 on S1. So in the later classes or the later semesters or in the higher studies, you will be able to discuss this more, as well as in your future career you will also be able to learn these as well. But this is beyond the scope of this course because it is a huge topic and it will take much time for this topic to be covered. So that is why we will be focusing on some other topics as well. So now you see that if I have concluded these points that S1 should be somewhere on the x-axis where Y should be equal to 0, and sorry, and in FS and in S2 you see that there is some X is 0 but Y is something. So these signals are mutually independent and they are not orthogonal to each other. So if you draw this, the message point of S2 will become here because this is on the y-axis where X is 0, and the message point for S1 will be something over here, that is there will be some value of X but Y will be equal to 0. So if you draw the decision line, you can actually see that the decision line will be in somewhere in the mid actually. So if the frequency and if the received packet S1 falls on this hand side and the receiving end, it will automatically detect it. Let's say this is 0. And if it falls on this hand side in the region of R2, it will automatically take it as a 1. So this is basically your observation vector, that you receive a vector. Let's say you receive this point and you put it in both of the equations. If R1 is greater than R2, you basically correlate. This is very much interesting thing. You want to correlate this point with both of these points. If this point has more correlation with this as compared to this, so this will be selected as 0. And if this point has more correlation with this point, it will be considered as 1 as a receiving end. You see that if the value of R1, it means that the received packet, this is small r1, let's say this is small r1, you receive this packet and you correlate it with this point phi 1, and you got some value, let's say r1, and you you correlate this signal with this signal, and the results come out to be R2. Now if R1 is greater than R2 excuse me, if this R1 is greater than R2, your point will be considered on this side and it will be considered as 0. Similarly, if the correlation, if R2 is greater than R1 or R1 is less than R2, in other words, so your signal will be considered as 1 rather than 0. So this is very much interesting topic, which with a lot of mathematics as well. Now coming towards the performance, that how does this FSK actually performs? FSK basically avoids most of the problem from noise, because you know that there are different amplitudes of noise. You can have different amplitude of noise, but most of the noise will be of having same frequency. So it is very much difficult for noise actually to be similar with that frequency that you are generating, and that frequency is orthogonal, because you see that you are creating orthogonal frequencies. You are selecting such frequencies that are orthogonal. So the noise frequency will be it is very less. There is a very less chance that the noise has the same frequency with your signal. It matches the same frequency of your signal. It is very much not possible. It's actually not 100% or not even 5 to 10%. It is very much there is low chance that your frequency of noise will fall on this frequency. So the frequency is the reason, that is why noise is not something we are looking over here. But there are other factors like the physical capabilities of the medium. Medium should be able to transmit at several frequencies. You have to justify your physical capabilities of the medium. So if you have a medium that only limits you to send in a particular frequency, let's say this is your medium and it only allows you to transmit at, let's say, up to 1 kilohertz. So if you are using FSK and you have the higher frequency of 2 kilohertz, so your signal of 2 kilohertz won't be able to be propagated within this medium. So the physical capabilities of the medium is of much importance. You have to make compatibility issues. You have to resolve compatibility issues before actually transmitting the data onto the medium. So you have to consider the frequency that you are generating from the modulator, FSK modulator, and you have to take this account the physical capability of the medium as well. So you have to take care of both of these things before actually transmitting your modulated signal over this channel or medium. Now coming towards PSK. PSK is nothing but a little bit modification. You see that you keep the amplitude and frequency constant, but you just shift the phase. And what is phase? You see that, let's say for 1 I am transmitting it with no phase, there is 0 phase over here, and with 0 I am transmitting it with a phase of pi. So you see that if the signal is 0, I have not shifted the phase, it is started as it is, but it ends over here. But as it comes 1, the phase will be shifted. Either instead of going on this side, it has shifted its phase. Excuse me, it has shifted its phase, and again there is 1, so no need for shifting the phase. But when there comes 0, 0 will have another phase. So for 0 it will have this phase, the signal will be starting. If you have 0, the signal will be starting in such a way, and if you have 1, the signal will start in this manner. So for every 1, the signal will start from the minus pi, and for every 0, so the signal will start from 0 degree. So this is the difference between PSK, FSK, and ASK. Now coming towards the decision line, you know that the difference, this is very much easy. Your one signal is on this side because of it is at 0 phase, and the other one is on 180 degree, that is pi. This phase is pi, so the other signal, that is 1, will be on this side, 180 degree across this. So the decision line will be in the center of this. And this diagram is known as basically constellation diagram. You have to keep this term in mind. Whenever you heard about constellation diagram, it means that you have to represent the bits in the graph as well. So I have a question for you, and I hope you bring the answer to the class as well. I will give +1 if you give me the right answer. If your 0 is at, let's say, 90 degree, if your 0 is basically at 90 degree, that is basically pi by 2. So what will be the value, what will be the phase of 1? If this is your not 0, let's say this is pi by 2. So my question to you is, what will be the phase for this one? That will be not be, this will not be pi. This, what will be the phase of this signal? This is my question to you. So bring that answer to me in the class as well. So now you see that this was about binary because you will have two options. Now if you want to transmit, let's say 4 PSK, now we are going towards M array. So you see that we will also discuss this in the future classes, future next class as well. So, but this is just introduction to you now. If you want to transmit 4 different phases, so you will have to need at least 4 different names, because you see that if you are using single bit 0 or 1, you will have only 2 options. This is, you will have 2 options, and it means you can use binary. But if you want to transmit 4 different data at 4 different phases, so it means you will have to at least 2. This is basically at the power of 2. 2 power 2 becomes 4. If you want to transmit signals within a 4 of from a choice of 4, this is your 4 choices, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So for that you need to have at least 2-bit system, that is die-bit system. So how does this thing work? This thing we will like this, that you will actually divide your 360 into 4. 360 divided by 4. So it means that every signal will have a difference of phase of 90 degree. It means that if the signal for the first signal starts from 0, the second signal will be started from 90, the third signal will be started from 180, and the fourth signal will be started from 270. We will discuss this thing in the coming class inshallah later on, but this was just an overview that how, and in the next class we will also discuss about some comparison in this between this M array and binary array and all of these several techniques that we used actually, that how, which one is better and according to which application, in the real life application as well as in their practical use. So that's all for today. I hope to see you in the class. If you have any questions regarding this topic, binary ASK specifically, you can put forward your question in the class. I will be very happy to answer your questions in the class. And if you are not able to attend the class, actually you have some internet issues or anything, you can email your questions to me. My email is mentioned, or you can put your questions on the portal, or you can have message me on my WhatsApp. You have my number. So I will be seeing you in the class. I also look forward to have some good questions so that we can have a good discussion. And the last I will say that the more you ask, the more you learn. That's all for today. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.